Okay, cool. Let's watch this. Turtle WoW is only the beginning, guys. This is a Bellular video. Presumably, I think there's been more lawsuits since Turtle WoW, so I think Blizzard's going after maybe not all the private servers, but maybe all of the major Classic Plus private servers, which should get us thinking, why would Blizzard sue all the major Classic Plus private servers right after ending Season of Discovery and unofficially announcing that they're working on their next Classic project? Or officially announcing they're working on their next Classic project and then suing all the Classic Plus private servers. I wonder why.
Turtle WoW was only the beginning. Blizzard's crusade just keeps going, and we now have more Classic server shutdowns. But with that, we also have even more defiance. Meanwhile, then, Blizzard are funding their legal team with fun new things like this very expensive battle pet that technically costs $75, but there is a little bit more to it.
Wait, $75 battle pet? Bro, you better never lose another pet battle with that thing. Unbelievable. What?
Then, in the actual game itself, incredible news, everyone. The longest quest chain of all time is finally over. But here's the thing. Blizzard forgot to put a reward on it. Oops. Okay, here's the news. All right, so this is serious, simple, and helpful, and I'll get very straight to the point. If you've ever got spam calls, spam mail, or scam attempts, a fairly basic fact is that your data got into the offending party's hands somehow. And today's sponsor, Incogni, is all about stopping that sort of thing. I use them, and so far you can see they've scrubbed me from 206 data brokers, they're taking me down for 4 more as we speak, and I'm on 23 suppression lists. Now you might be wondering, what is a data broker and how is this stuff relevant? It's pretty simple. Data brokers harvest personal data. Sometimes this is because companies sell your data on, sometimes though it is harvested from a data breach. Like as an example, my home ISP, Virgin Media, where 900,000 customers' names, numbers, emails, and home addresses and more were exposed for 10 months. And when that happens, the data gets in the internet. But where it gets real spooky is how, with the likes of that, and even semi-anonymous metadata, that can all be corroborated to basically build a profile on you. Now, you've got a legal right to get this stuff taken down, but doing so is a manual process that does not guarantee your data won't be reharvested. Incogni quite simply automates all of that, and it continually rescans to keep your data down and put you on suppression lists. So to up your security, squelch down those annoying spam things and support the channel, check out incogni.com/Bellular Warcraft today. First, it was Turtle WoW. They ignored cease and desist letters, so Blizzard hit them with an utter legal nuke. A lawsuit that alleged...
Did Turtle WoW get hit by cease and desist before the lawsuit? It was, to my understanding, that Blizzard skipped the cease and desists and then went straight to the lawsuit. But maybe they did get hit with cease and desist and ignored them. Maybe I'm misunderstanding here. I thought they just completely... Every private server does. Most likely they did. I mean, it makes more sense that they did the cease and desist first. But yeah.
Turtle was actually part of a criminal empire, and they seemingly planned to destroy one American team member as their way in. Now, we thought that that was a one-off. Turns out, no, it isn't. That's because now, and with the genuine threat of legal action on the table, Blizzard are sending out more and more cease and desists. One team listened and one team didn't. Now, Everlook was a vanilla progression private server, and they folded immediately. In their statement, they said that the takedown proves something, that Blizzard are, quote, unwilling to accept that many people want to enjoy a World of Warcraft experience that they have failed to deliver. But here's the problem. It was just a vanilla server, much like Classic Era, so that argument doesn't really hold as much water. Now, Turtle got credit for one thing, and that was a lack of visible RMT in botting. That's not true in all private servers. Even just a cursory look at Everlook shows RMT issues, plus a donation store for convenience items. So ultimately, they weren't offering a drastically different experience from Classic Era, not that that would matter legally, and, well, the financial side doesn't really look good. Anyway, Everlook is shutting down. But the team that didn't fold, well, that's Project Epoch. Sort of. They are a promising-looking Classic Plus server, one that Turtle WoW actually felt threatened by, at least if these leaked screenshots are real. There's a lot of drama in the private server scene. Why would they feel threatened? Well, after the cease and desist, the Epoch team is leaving the project. They are going to shut down everything that they, quote, are able to, like the website. But here's where it gets strange. They can't actually shut down the game. Why not? Well, whenever it grew massively at launch, their servers could not handle the demand, and that is where Ascension enters the picture. Ascension is the giant classless WoW project, and Ascension graciously offered to take Epoch in hand and handle server hosting. So, Ascension runs Epoch, and they are not going to stop. And their response was quite bold. They posted that they'll release existing content and that they will then build a new team to continue development. So that's a massive middle finger up to Blizzard, and it's all based on a full internal roadmap. But yesterday, players noticed something up. That their ping to the servers shot up drastically. From the US and even from Singapore, their ping was going up. Maybe the servers were somewhere that Blizzard could legally tackle, and perhaps now they are not, and that's responsible for their ping going up. That seems to be the case, at least for now. Of course, Ascension are massive, and they advertise publicly. That means they're almost certainly next in Blizzard's radar. But their problem is this. With such blatant unconcern towards the cease and desists, they're confident that they're immune to really anything that Blizzard can do. You know, jurisdiction and such. So we're going to have to see if Blizzard's legal team can find a way to crack them open.
I could definitely see a world where, like, if Ascension is hosted in Russia and they can't actually, you know, do anything to get them shut down, I could see a world where Blizzard contacts ISPs and ISPs block access to Epoch, Ascension, Turtle WoW. So you need a VPN to, like, get to any of these things. And then a lot of people would just say, GG's, like, I'm not going to, like, VPN to get on a private server. It's too much work. And then a lot of people will do it, but it would cut the player base in, like, half or a third. And then when you cut down the player base in a half or a third, then you kind of lose critical mass, maybe to some degree, and then, like, more players might start quitting. So, like, it would handicap them pretty brutally. So, like, I could see a world where that happens. How would that work? So basically, like, they can't actually, if the lawsuit doesn't make it to Russia, which it's realistic that it wouldn't. First of all, hey man, I'm not a lawyer. This is how I understand stuff when I, like, read it on the internet. So, like, take this with, like, you know, a grain of salt. But I think the way it would work is if you can't actually get to Russia with the lawsuit, you would go to the ISPs in America or maybe some countries in Europe that would respect the jurisdiction of the US intellectual property, the IP. Then the ISPs themselves would block these websites from being able to be accessed. So you wouldn't be able to get on the Epoch website, and you wouldn't be able to connect to the Epoch servers. But they wouldn't be down. You just wouldn't be able to connect without a VPN from, you know, Russia or something. But then you have lag, and then you have to go through an extra hoop, and then it's just, like, annoying. So a lot of people would just quit. So we'll see.
Just like they're trying to crack open Turtle by targeting the people that they can target. Now, considering Ascension can just build a new team to run Epoch, well, maybe the same, quote, illegal criminal enterprise allegation will carry the same weight. Or maybe Turtle, Ascension, and Epoch will just be permanent thorns in Blizzard's side. Either way, their legal team is going to need a lot of resources. And good news, Blizzard are farming sales. Ish. I say ish because, man, I really can't imagine just going and buying this thing overtly. Now, if I told you Blizzard were selling a $75 battle pet, you'd probably believe me. It's not quite that bad.
Okay.
But it's getting close.
What is
Although,
it?
I think people will have different opinions on this. So the Blizzard Gear Score is running a promotion for the next week, where they're offering the Scruffy Hornfell Snooter for free. Asterix, only with eligible purchases of $75 or more.
Oh, it's free, but you just have to spend $75 or more. Okay, so they're incentivizing gear purchases from their website, like merch or like any type of, like, t-shirts and, like, hoodies or anything, and then you get a free pet with purchase. Got it. Okay.
Now, there's different ways to look at this. The idea of having some sort of freebie thing whenever you spend a certain amount of money is completely normal in so many stores across the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, though, with a game like World of Warcraft, it will be framed differently. It will be framed as a lot of money to ask from collectors. Now, you might argue that it's a good excuse to go...
Oh, that's true. Because collectors want every pet, And if they have every pet except this one, they're basically forced to buy something for $75 to get the pet, even though they don't want the merge. That's interesting.
Buy stuff from the gear score, and that's fair. But here's the frustrating part. I think we all know what's up here. Blizzard kind of knows full well that there are people who will buy whatever just to get the pet.
Bro, this shirt is sick. I saw someone with it at Gamescom. Dope.
Which I don't think is a particularly good experience, especially considering the very high price. And looking at costs in the store, it's quite clearly set at a specific price point, one that is slightly too high to just, buy the one item that you want. Most hoodies are $60, many smaller items are $30. It's a standard store practice, it's transparent, but obviously it does work. Now, the tie-in with an in-game item this way has definitely rubbed some people the wrong way. WoW had pointed this out, and they've even got an affiliate link to that store. They noted that it's more expensive than the actual Midnight expansion, and they're absolutely right. But I think what we're going to see is a continuation of things like this. Blizzard will be applying as much what I'd call standard business practice as they can. They will try to go as far as they can without compromising the $15 a month thing that they've got going on with WoW. Because if they go too hard and that breaks, then obviously that will be bad for their bottom line. But aside from that, expect more experiments, be it things like this, be it the store bundles that were done along with Trader's Tender, and whatever is going to be coming next with player housing. Next, I've got something that we do not get as often as we'd like, and that is devs talking shop in public. So, Tom Ellis is a senior game producer on World of Warcraft, and he worked his way up after starting as a game master in 2006. So, he knows his stuff, and he's been here for a while. And he posted this gigantic breakdown of why PvP servers are always doomed. It's fascinating. And the short version is that throughout all of World of Warcraft's history, PvP servers were never fully balanced. And even when PvP realms would get lucky and end up close with a 45-55...
I kind of want to read this whole thing as a PvPer. This is like... Where is it a tweet? Okay. Maybe I was going to find the tweet, but maybe I could just read it from here. So being sassy aside, thought I'd fill in the blanks on why PvP realms and WoW always fail. Without slowly drifting into monofaction pseudo PvE realms and why war mode ultimately happened instead. Sure, the tongue-in-cheek joke is that players don't really want PvP, but like to be on a PvP realm for the old school prestige. Oh, that's kind of fair. Maybe some, but for most, no. They just want to play with enough people of their faction to do the content they want. The slide towards monofaction starts right at the birth of the realm. When we relaunched Classic, most of the PvP realms landed somewhere around 45-55. Some realms pro-Horde, some pro-Alliance. That's decently balanced at a glance, but it's also the seeds of their eventual destruction. Generally, no one wants to be the underdog, even in the 45-55 split. And then that's a few extra guilds that the opposing side will always be able to field. Every world PvP engagement is generally just ever so slightly lopsided against you if you're on the 45 side. Bro, this is just like a player problem at this point, because like back in the day, you would not even know if it was a 45-55 split. You would just like pick a server, you'd pick Horde or Alliance, and you just start playing. Even if it was like 70-30, you wouldn't like feel it that much. It would just be like, I'm just playing the game. I mean, if it was like a really, really imbalanced server, like 95-5, like I think there was some back in the day, like you would feel it, and then you'd be like, what's going on here? Then maybe you'd re-roll or something. But like a lot of the times, you wouldn't even think about it. But now it's like everything is so metagamed. You have a 5% disadvantage. It's like, crap, I need to re-roll. It's just different. What we saw is that on these servers, there were usually cornerstone guilds that held up their sides of the PvP armor. You know, that one guild that was able to break through and actually let your faction raid Molten Core that night. Yeah. Bro, when Classic WoW came out in 2019, I was on Horde side, and I mean, you guys remember. I don't need to tell this story. Farolina, 2019. We had every single flight path across Azeroth held down. The Alliance couldn't leave their cities. They were trembling in Stormwind City. If they took a flight path and landed, boom, insta HK, baby. They were dead on sight, bro. It was brutal for Alliance. It was so bad. And the Alliance population plummeted. They all quit. Like, it was brutal. Like, dude, you couldn't leave the city or you were just dead right when PvP came out. Oh my gosh. Is there a video about that? On my YouTube channel, we probably do have some footage, but it's 6 years old now, so good luck finding it. But yeah, like, dude, we were farming hard. Brutal. Anyway, eventually these guilds would get tired of the slog, and it only takes one of them to decide to move on to a realm where the faction isn't the underdog. Yeah, this is kind of what happened. And there'd be a big swing in the balance of power in the PvP hotspots, and that would trigger a much quicker exodus of the remaining serious raiding guilds. Yeah, it's domino theory in practice. When picking a new home, you don't pick yet another realm where you're slightly outnumbered. You pick one where you're slightly slightly outnumber. You've had enough of the crap. This pushes the destination realm more out of the balance, and the smaller factions there goes the same process. As we watch Classic go through vanilla, TBC, this process accelerated. By the end of TBC, almost all the PvP realms were mono faction, not because people didn't want to PvP, but they didn't want to be on them more often and not losing side. There were no balanced realms to go to for mono faction PvP, and it was also the old realm caps. We've massively increased realms' ability to accept players, so this one isn't relevant now, but if you had an older classic style realm where this is balanced and queued versus a mono faction realm queued, well, there was twice as many if your faction to group with a mono faction realm. Yeah, it's a really interesting thing to think about. But this has to be true, man. It's brutal, definitely brutal.
With a 45-55 split, it would never stick. Back in the day, you see, the other faction could stop you from getting to your raid or your dungeon. Raid entrances were basically battlegrounds, and the smaller faction would obviously lose more often. And even if it was only a little bit, it would lead to a cascade, where a guild wouldn't get to raid, so it would go to a different realm, a realm where their faction is on the bigger side, on the winning side. And without that guild, perhaps it would now be, instead of 45-55, 44-56. That makes it harder for others to raid, and soon it ends up being 43-57, and so on.
Right.
What would happen is the tiniest imbalance would then snowball, and that would lead to a faction exodus. It seems that people in general...
Someone asked, Season of Discovery was fine, why was that? That's a great question. So what they did in Season of Discovery is they made it, if enough people rolled Alliance would get locked, and you could only roll Horde. And then if too many people rolled Horde would get locked. And then you had to roll Alliance. So they forced 50-50 balance on Season of Discovery realms. They forced it. Right? And when they did that, aka management, when they did that, it kind of worked. I would still argue that Season of Discovery was pretty Alliance dominant. Would you guys agree with that? Like every time we were out there, it felt like Alliance still kind of ruled. In Blackrock Mountain, I felt like it was still Alliance dominant, but in terms of the numbers, they were like technically pretty equal.
Don't like World PvP when it felt unfair. Now, Tom says something interesting happened at the end of the Burning Crusade, and that is that because of fighting over Sunwell dailies, most PvP realms were dominated by just one faction. And as soon as that happens, PvP realms are obviously doomed. So, to fix this problem, they eventually created War Mode. And then, in classic fashion, they made the same mistake right away. You see, initially they made sure that every shard had some Alliance and some Horde by spreading everyone out evenly. But Horde players are in War Mode more often, so it ended up being massively imbalanced. So to get around this problem, they went for a 40-60 ratio. And that still didn't work. So now War Mode does everything that it can to make it 50-50. That means if there's a fight, it'll be even. And this is exactly why Season of Discovery had the forced faction lock at the very start. According to Tom, that actually worked, quote, stupidly well for being so simple.
Yeah, no, it actually kind of did. Like, it kind of worked. You know, there was downsides. The downsides were if all your friends played Alliance and Alliance was locked that week or that day, you couldn't play with your friends. Like that's a real tangible downside. That sucks. But the upside is now you have a system that actually kind of works. So you can have some type of balanced PvP on the realm, and you go outside and it's not just all Alliance or all Horde. Like you have some type of balance. So I generally kind of liked it, even though it kind of sucked in not being able to play with your friends if you got locked out at the wrong time.
In a way, that's not surprising, because often simple things really do work. Now, that's not the only reason why Tom is in the news, because Tom got a little spicy. When I say spicy, I'm referring to the plan to fix some of the MoP Classic Realm issues.
This is good, I think.
And his solution is mega servers. Basically, every server in each region will be sharded together. All PvP servers will become PvE and closed. They'll pick one PvE server and they will open free transfers to it. And that way, everyone will be playing together on one gigantic realm. Now in the US, one PvP server will remain open, but they're going to be extremely careful with faction balance, and they're going to do that by opening and closing transfers as needed. As for the EU, well, they don't have any balanced servers, so PvP realms are just done. For non-English realms, they're going to have 3 mega servers, one for the French, one for the Germans, and one for the Russians. Crazy enough plan, but Tom says that it actually worked out for Season of Discovery and Anniversary. And I'll take the point that it seems to have worked, but my god, that makes for headlines. I will say this.
I think this is good. I think most classic players like this. Hold on, am I out of touch here? I think this is good that they're putting all the players on like one server that's poppin', so you don't have a bunch of dead realms, you have one poppin' realm, and the PvP on the PvP realm should be like a little better. This is great, it's good, I like. Okay, so you guys all agree, it's fine, yes. Someone says you are out of touch. Wait, so do you disagree? Good idea, it's fine. I think generally this is good. Now it comes with its problems, right? Like mega servers do. Like if there's only one server, that probably means more layers, which I guess is kind of annoying. But I think it's better than a bunch of dead realms, I think. I don't know. When I played Season of Discovery and there was like one realm that was popping, I generally liked it. I'm trying to think the other downsides of just like having one server with everyone. Like, I think for something like Classic WoW, it makes a lot of sense. For something like Season of Discovery, it makes a lot of sense. For something like Mist of Pandaria, it makes a lot of sense. Like when it's like a niche classic community, it makes a lot of sense. But I don't think it makes sense for like retail. Europe getting no PvP is kind of troll, no. I would be curious how the European PvPers feel about this. I think there might be some people upset, but the reason they're not getting a PvP realm is because there's literally no active PvP realms that would work anyway. Okay, maybe I'm out of touch on this point. To me, it seems like most of the PvPers in Mist of Pandaria go queue up Arena or Rated Battlegrounds. And if you want to like world PvP, it's usually like not really happening much in MoP anyway. That's like a classic thing. Like that's not like a big feature of the expansion that people are like, I'm gonna run around in world PvP. It's like a very minor small thing. So I don't know. Like I've played a ton of MoP and I haven't done like much world PvP, but I guess you could make the argument because my server's all Alliance anyway.
It does kind of seem like cleaning up for the sake of cleaning up, maybe not solving any immediate problems, but hopefully, well, Tom knows something that we don't, and that, you know, they actually know the risks. But personally, I love it when WoW producers get to talk about all of this nitty-gritty stuff. So, yeah, you know what? Too. I'm happy to see it. Happy to see the openness, happy to see the honesty. And if I was so perverted that I loved Dementius LFR, I'd be absolutely gutted about the next story. If you're avoiding Dementius and LFR, I really can't blame you because it's a total shit show disaster. And this week, Blizzard may have solved the biggest problem, and that basically is more nerfs to the first phase, and they really are gigantic. The mobs have got half the XP that they used to, and they drop 3 gravity balls instead of 2, so there's just going to be...
I haven't actually done this, so we're kind of just taking his word here on this one. Yeah, the nerfs continue. I find it so interesting that like when Race to World first starts, the boss is just so much harder, and then it just continually gets nerfed until more and more people consent. I guess this is even Raid Finder though, so this is a little different.
Balls for everyone. And finally, Dementius doesn't get any hungrier. That means that standing in any pool is enough to stop you from dying. Then Phase 2 has also got some nerfs. The wall ads have lost 30% health, and you get some more time to touch Xalatath's circles before you die. And then there's one much needed fix for all difficulties, and that is that for some reason, druids couldn't use their flight forms to get around in Phase 2. That meant that they would need to have mounts on their bar just for that one boss. The good news is that Blizzard have finally fixed that up, so druids, you can free up that keybind again. Now here's something absolutely gorgeous. Bayard Wu is WoW's principal illustrator, and he's just built different. He showed off 3 new portraits for Midnight. They're gorgeous. They're renditions of Lorthamar, Leodrin, and Orwena.
Sick.
Incredible. And his key art has been just the hard carrying the aesthetics of WoW for a while now, and these are brilliant examples. And honestly, this isn't really news. I just wanted you guys to see them. As for the news, well, Midnight Alpha is probably within the next few weeks. At Gamescom, we heard that Alpha was, quote, in the coming
Midnight
weeks.
Alpha hype.
So, well, I suppose, the coming is any day now. And if you want to get ready for that and be caught up with all of the lore stuff that you need to know before then, good news! We made this video exactly just for you.
Dun, 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 dun. Another beautiful Bellular video. This video, guys, Midnight Story Explained in 20 minutes. I plan to watch this because I'm a little lost on the Midnight lore. I'm very lost on the Midnight lore. But I was gonna wait to watch this until closer to midnight, so I have it fresh in my mind when midnight comes out. So I'll probably watch this video in a few weeks or months. But I did see that upload, and I was like, I want to see that. But anyway, that's the Turtle WoW being sued. That's Ascension being sued, which is Epoch being sued, and some news on a $75 pet. WoW's spicy plans. I don't even think this is too spicy. I think this is like decent. This is fine with like the mop merches, but nice, cool. Beautiful. First time I heard the word under eyes. Yeah, someone says, what do you use for your under eyes? They're brighter than my future. Sunlight. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yep. All right. Guys, I think it's time to play a little Mr. Pandoria hype.